Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Jasmine, and we have another chit chat conversation topic that I want to discuss with you guys. So, oh, my mic fell. I'm a big fan of Kelly Stamps. Check out her YouTube channel, by the way. Anyways, I follow her, love her content, especially as a fellow black suburban woman, girl, whatever. So I am pretty much just not really responding, but kind of following up a video of hers I just watched, where essentially she was talking about how, she's experienced more racism living in liberal states than she has in the South and other places. And I'm going to explain to you guys why that is, as that has been my experience too. I think a lot of white liberals think them being a liberal automatically makes them not racist, and so they're super uneducated, but also just they believe their political views alone are enough for them to not be racist. But let me explain to you something. Liberal policies actually have more of a racial undertone than Republican ones or conservative ones, because they literally hold a view, like liberals already hold a view that black people are at a disadvantage, right? So you already believe that black people are less than you. Like, if you're a liberal, you literally have to believe that black people are less than you, and that's why they need all these handouts or these extra things or whatever. So they already look down on black people essentially as part of their beliefs, and then pretend why they okay, let me go back real quick because I'm getting ahead of myself. So one thing I always observed, especially going to college, and being around, I guess, a more liberal population, racism comes in all shapes, sizes, colors, right? Anyone can be racist. And a lot of racism is built around ignorance, but it also comes from the idea that, you have more or you have less than someone. As long as you think you're better than someone for any reason, racism comes from a lot of things, and microaggressions come from ignorance a lot. So I remember when I used to be a big social justice warrior and a more liberal thinking person, I used to make all of these Facebook posts pretty much talking about racism and calling out racism. But as I've gotten older, I've realized the things that were actually racist are literally right in front of your faces, and we ignore them. Okay, so I'm going to explain why teaching racism actually upholds it, because this is something that I've always realized, or I started realizing recently. So pretty much, I'll never forget. Let me just tell y'all my background. Essentially, I've always been a minority, essentially. I was born in Texas. I went to school with pretty much all Hispanics. I was always a minority. Lived in Colorado for 2 years. Everyone was white. Only black person. And I think me and my siblings were the only black people in the entire school when we lived in Colorado. And then we moved to Georgia, and that was when I first discovered there's more black people in the world than just the 3 other black people I had seen in my life before hand. And so, sorry y'all, I'm joking, but like seriously, that is when I was able to be exposed to, other black people and realize we're not alone. Obviously, my family is black, so I'm used to seeing black people, but I wasn't used to seeing many black people. So anyways, moved to Georgia, and I was still a minority, but not major minority. And I honestly like that the city I grew up was more diverse. It had people of all backgrounds. Like my best friends in like elementary was a Indian girl, a white girl, a mixed girl, a black girl. Like I had friends from all different backgrounds, and I love that. I love having a diverse friend group. That is honestly like I like diverse settings. I don't want to be around just like, I'm comfortable honestly in any room I step in now because I'm so used to I'm used to being the only black person, so I can be comfortable in a room full of just white people, and I've been in that position plenty of times where it doesn't even bother me or faze me anymore. But the same goes, like I'm also comfortable in a room full of black people because, well, I'm black. So I feel like I have the privilege of being able to fit in wherever I go. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've never experienced some negative sides of being the only black person in a room full of white people, but I feel like I've experienced ignorance from white and black people, because I've had a black girl tell me, "Oh, you sound white," when I went through a drive-through before. It was this black girl working in Dunkin', and I'm like, to believe that all black people have to sound a certain way or should talk a certain way, act a certain way, is just as racist coming from a black person as it is coming from a white person. So I don't honestly view, I think ignorance comes from all people. If you're ignorant, you're ignorant. Educate yourself. But anyways, the idea that all black people have to look, talk, act the same way, the idea that hip hop culture is what represents all black people and all black Americans, that is a racist concept idea. Now, I get it. If you grew up in a certain area where that was popular, that was normalized, that is what that's one thing. But as a black girl who grew up in the suburbs, I don't know what it's like to grow up in the hood. Now, did I get my hair done in the hood? Yeah. Did my grandparents low-key live in the hood? Yeah. But my grandparents are also educated. Like my grandmother, here's the thing. Classy black people, and I shouldn't say, well, no. Classy black people have always existed. Educated, well-educated, classy, hold themselves and carry themselves a certain way, know how to speak well. They have always existed. It's just that the media pushes this one view. And I mean, if you look on television, the most of the black people are exposed to are those who, it's like hip hop culture. We literally try to showcase black people always as like hip hop. I mean, Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, I'm going to argue. Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm not going to say those women are all ghetto or anything like that. Personally, I don't really like calling people ghetto in general. I mean, that's another topic. We'll get into that at a later date. But essentially, there is more than one type of aesthetic for black people, and the idea that all black people should or come from a certain type of background or aesthetic is incorrect, right? So that's an idea that, is also I think it's also like an availability heuristic bias. That's my psych degree coming in. If you've only been exposed to black people from rap videos or Love and Hip Hop, well, you're going to assume, if you haven't been exposed to any other types of black people, then you're going to maybe assume that that is what all black people are. So I feel like when people don't grow up in diverse places, they're going to get their ideas from, I guess, the media and whatever they're watching. And the media loves to portray, black women being ghetto, black men as thugs, drug dealers, rappers, or I guess you can say the athletes, which athletes to me are like, even like black people in sports, there's kind of a racial undertone, because this idea that black men are superior in strength or whatever, it's also kind of like tied to slavery, but that's another video. Anyways, back to the original topic. Why is it that a lot of white liberals are actually racist? Well, I've already covered in the beginning, to be a liberal policies around racism are often stemmed in the idea that black people are less than, have less, less, and need white people in order to be successful. So a lot of liberal practices and policies are honestly based on the fact that black people are beneath them, aren't as educated, don't have access to good quality schools, education, and things like that. So there's this idea that as a whole, black people, aren't as educated and need more help. And that kind of fuels racism in a sense, because you're literally telling, it's like your whole school of thought stems around racism, stems from believing that black people are less than and don't have as much as white people, right? So if someone believes that what liberals believe is true, then they're going to hold some racist views of black people. They're going to think that, as a white person, they have more, or they are better than a black person. That to me is like, well, that kind of aligns with liberal beliefs, because and thinking of the Black Lives Matter whole thing too, it's just like, when people are so indoctrinated in a sense by like these liberal policies and practices, where they're just like, oh, and I think like there's an underlying aspect of it too. I do think like a lot of liberals are told that it's only conservatives or Republicans that are racist, and the KKK and all these, they're all hardcore conservatives, Republicans. And so they think that as long as they're not a conservative, then they're not racist. And I'm not gonna lie, like, conservatives have said racist things too in the past. So that's why I'm just like, I don't really try to label. I'm not really trying to call everyone who's a liberal or everyone who's a conservative racist. Racist people exist regardless of your political beliefs, backgrounds, whatever. And I'm not really a political person, so I don't really care. I think like I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. So a lot of people, though, who are liberal have the idea that because they're because they already believe that the only racists they think of are like the typical stereotypical one, that when you think of racist, you think of like the KKK or people who have the what's it called, Confederate flag. Like, those are the racist people, and those are the only people y'all want to view as racist. But truthfully, a lot of racism comes from people who don't grow up around other races, who lack diversity around them. And so just because someone's liberal, if they grew up only around white people and they've never met or exchanged 2 words with a black person in their life, they're probably very ignorant. And like I said, liberal policies honestly are backed by racist beliefs or underlying like racism. And so the other part is that I really do believe that when we teach racism to children in schools, it upholds it, because we're teaching we're teaching black kids to believe that because of their race, they have to work twice as hard to achieve the same thing as whites. We're teaching them to like compare themselves to white people and whiteness in order to measure how successful they are. And I'm like, why are we even making these comparisons based off of race to begin with? Like, why are we measuring how successful black people are as in comparison to where white people are at? Like, we're still holding white people to this standard and as these people who are like better. It's like you're still supporting or holding a belief system that whiteness is better when you try to compare and say we should be here, we should be, on a similar standpoint, as if being white is the greatest thing you can be. So yeah, I feel like it reinforces the idea that in order to be successful, you have to be in like white spaces. But also it teaches white people that they're privileged because they're white. They're at this, that white people have a better experience simply because they're white. And so I think teaching racism honestly gives white people superiority complexes, and it gives black people and some other minorities inferiority complexes, because you're teaching people to believe that their skin color is the reason affects the way they're being treated, and that they're going to be treated worse because they're black, they'll be treated better because they're white. And then if you actually believe that, well, then white people are going to go around believing they should be treated the best of the best everywhere they go because they're white, and black people are going to be thinking, oh, no one's treating me as well because of this. So it's like you're reinforcing, stereotypes, but also upholding these underlying racial beliefs. Sorry, all my back hurts from sitting up. So essentially, I feel like if we keep teaching kids that the color of their skin is going to affect the way they are treated, you're literally teaching children to be afraid to, one, be themselves, but also teaching them to view their skin you're teaching them to view their race as, like a crux in a sense, like, oh, I'm going to be treated worse because of my skin color and things like that. And I also realized, like, I used to view the world through a lens of racism, and so I just thought, well, racism is like the biggest problem in the world, and that's why black people can't be successful and blah 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 blah. The truth is, I handedly, let me get my words together, I have firsthand experience of, one, knowing and seeing successful black people in all avenues of life. Both of my parents are very well educated. My parents make a lot of money. I watched my mom work very, very hard to get to where she is in life. And so she's never used her race as an excuse for why she couldn't be successful. And so I think the truth is that we need to stop teaching people to, one, believe that their race is going to stop them from being successful, because that's not the truth. Black people were successful even during racism. Black people were successful, and then people are going back and trying to like retell history in a sense and be like, black people weren't able to achieve anything. I'm like, we have black people inventing major things. I feel like because back then, even though black people were treated as second class citizens, they didn't actually believe they were. And so that is the difference. Right now, a lot of black people truly believe they are second class. And so they don't actually try anymore to reach things because, I can't do it because the white man is not going to keep me down. I don't know if people actually believe that, but I just think you need to stop comparing yourself to whiteness to begin with. Be proud. Don't stop viewing your race as the reason you can't be successful. Like, you can be successful at anything you set your mind to do, regardless of your race. Your race, and I think this is the reason why I also stopped believing in racism. As soon as I realized race is not real, and this is going to go over some people's heads because the understanding it, like, in order to understand this, you have to realize, like, race is a social construct. My minor's in sociology, so I took sociology of race, obviously. I took sociology of gender, sociology of family, marriage, relationships, whatever. But basically, the fact that race is a social construction, it means that we all, like, race was literally made up. Someone decided way back in the day that they were going to categorize human beings by the color of their skin and then make up attributes based off of the color of people's skins. So these ideas, the ideas that people hold about race, is literally made up. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't genetic advantages, but race doesn't exist on a biological level at all. And also a lot of, like, the racial stereotypes are is kind of also a result of slavery in a sense. Like, the idea that black people are, like, the reason why so many black people are good at sports is, like, not every black person is good at sports, but we do see a lot of, black people excel in sports. Well, if you really think about it, all I'm going to say is, if you think from the mindset of they were literally treating or breeding black people essentially during slavery for the best traits, they wanted slaves who had the most muscles. And so if there was a man that was exceptionally strong, well, they wanted that man to produce all of the children. So essentially, black people who have slave ancestors were essentially breeded for their strength and athletic abilities. So the reason we kind of see maybe more African Americans excel at sports is probably a little bit tied to that. Now, this is my hypothesis. This is not probably proven. I haven't done enough research, whatever, on that, but that's what my brain thinks. Anyways, I don't think that only black people are good at sports, though. Obviously, it's like some of it's genetics, some of it's hard work, some of it's, God-given talent. But regardless, y'all, being liberal does not mean you're not racist. And oftentimes, it's actually the opposite. So yeah, this is all I wanted to add to the conversation. Essentially, is my thoughts on why it is that a lot of liberals actually hold racist views. Oh, I almost forgot one thing. So basically, when this is something that pisses me off. So the whole concept "pretty for a black girl" is one of the most annoying statements I've ever heard. The idea that black women or black people aren't pretty or don't meet beauty stereotypes, whatever. Like, I think what we honestly need to stop doing is stop believing all of these studies that are that quote unquote claim to measure beauty or attractiveness. Like, there is no way to prove a certain race is genetically more beautiful than another. I do think that obviously there's a very Eurocentric beauty features are normalized around the globe for whatever reason. Well, I shouldn't say for whatever reason. The reason is colonization. But essentially the idea that a black, like, minority groups are not as attractive, this is where I have to just kind of be frank with y'all. I'm gonna stop trying to be PC and just say what I mean. A lot of white people think being white makes them automatically pretty. And the reason that a lot of them think or will view themselves as better than minorities is because they have this idea that them being white makes them automatically more attractive. And Kelly Stamps brought up a video essentially, or in her video essentially said how this blue-haired white woman came up to her and said, "Oh, you're a super pretty black girl," and then tried to bring up a Bumble study that quote unquote said black women were the least attractive, essentially to back that up. And you see, white people love a study that makes them look good, that makes them feel good, right? Because they need that validation. So anyways, these studies is what has a lot of these white women thinking they're automatically better than a black girl, black woman, minority woman, because it validates their self-esteem is built off of their whiteness. And so, like I said, it really is an underlying superiority complex mixed in there for someone to believe that being white makes you automatically more attractive. But essentially, the people who are racist usually have there's an underlying superiority complex there, and a lot of white liberals do have that because they have to believe that, like, racism, to be anti-racism, you have to believe racism exists, and to believe racism exists means you think black people are less than. Like, I don't know how else to, like, state it better. Like, you literally have to believe black people are less than to believe racism exists, or to support racism. I think I explained it better the first time I said it, but essentially, if you believe black people are victims of racism, systemic racism as a whole, and here's the thing. Honestly, I think a lot of liberal policies use a lot of emotional manipulation to get black people to stay voting for them. Like, I can't remember, someone pointed out how they said black people were too dumb. Essentially, black people are too dumb to get voter identification, which is why we can't have voter IDs in minority neighborhoods. It's basically like those are literally, that's literally racist. Like, you think black people aren't smart enough to register to vote? It's just like they're constantly underestimating. They low-key look down on black people because it's like the white savior complex is real. That is built upon a superiority complex, and the superiority complex comes from teaching about racism. So there we go, we tied everything together. There we have it, y'all. So yeah, that is why I believe there are probably more racist liberals than conservatives. But at the end of the day, I don't really care anymore whether or not someone's racist. I see racism now as someone else's problem. It's not my problem that you think you're better than me because of your race. That will forever be your problem. I don't think I am better than or less than anyone. Like, when you actually truly view yourselves as equally capable of achieving everything in this country regardless of your race, that is how you know you're not racist. When you don't look down upon someone or think someone is not capable or able to achieve something because of the color of their skin or because of their racial demographic. Like, the moment you start thinking that someone, like a minority, has more struggles because they are a minority, that is literally racism in and of itself. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. Like, if you believe you have it better simply because you are white, that is actually built on racism. I don't know how else to say it, but like, I don't actually believe someone being white makes them better than me. And so I don't live in this disillusioned world where I think of myself as less than because I am a black woman. And therefore, I don't have an inferiority complex, but I'm also not, like, I can call out superiority complexes in a lot of these white women who make like these ignorant statements. It also helps that I'm intelligent, I guess. I use that word loosely because I don't like, I'm not dumb. Let's just say I'm not dumb. I am not dumb. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're a white liberal watching this, you should probably reevaluate your stance on some things and make sure you're not, infantilizing black people around you and thinking they're not capable of, doing things for themselves, or that they need white people in order to achieve success in this country. I think like it's like, you literally just, as long as you literally just believe you are equal to every person, like, I feel like it really just is like, you can't look at yourself as being less than or better than anyone. Like, I truly don't believe I'm less than or better than anyone, which is why I can sit up here and say this confidently. Like, it doesn't matter your race. Like, people go through crap. I can say that, I've had, it's just like, being white doesn't make someone automatically like superior to, like, if you talk to like country, okay, here's the thing, living in the South, there's redneck and ghetto is two peas in a pod. They are literally like the white version of the hood is redneck, or trailer park, whatever, is literally the same things. It's just like being poor, don't care if you black or white. Like, I don't know. But essentially, it's really not that hard to not be racist. Just stop viewing yourself as better than or less than people. Show respect to people regardless of their race. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to teach people to not be racist or ignorant. Like, if you don't understand something, ask questions. But it's like, I made a video on my second channel where I was just like, if a white person is confused about my hair being, 10 inches longer in braids than my natural hair was, and they're like, is that your real hair? Let them be dumb. Like, some people are like, it's a microaggression if a white person asks about your hair. I was like, no, baby, they just stupid. Like, I don't think it's a microaggression. I think if you literally think my hair grew 10 inches overnight, or actually bump that 20 inches overnight, because I came in with my natural hair and I came in with 20 inches of hair the next day, that person is just dumb. Like, and they're asking, is that your real hair? I would be like, are you stupid? You really think my hair grew that much overnight? Like, I feel like there's just certain things that I'm like, it's not even about like, are you racist? It's like, are you logically thinking? I don't know. Anyways, yeah. I shouldn't say let people be dumb, but sometimes you just gotta let people be dumb. And I mean that in the most like respectful manner possible. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've just gotten to a point where I've stopped being like, I don't need validation from anyone about who I am as a person, my worth as a person. I don't seek validation from white people to feel good about myself or to feel like I'm worthy of anything. It's just like, you have to be secure in yourself. Like, me being black has never been an issue for me. It may have been an issue for other people. It's never been an issue for me. So therefore, the people who have an issue with me being black, that's their problem, not mine. You don't have to take on, just because someone, like, people cannot like you for any reason. Someone doesn't like me because I'm black. If someone is racist towards me, so freaking what? Like, I literally don't care anymore. Which sounds dumb. Like, you can choose to not care about someone's racism. I don't know why people think they have to care so much about someone being racist. Like, that's literally their problem. Pray for them, bless them. The Bible says, bless those that persecute you. When someone is being rude to you, kill them with kindness, honestly. Make them look like and feel like the worst type of okay, I'm not saying this to be like manipulative, but to like do it in the best way. Literally be as kind to people as you can, regardless of how they treat you, so that that no matter how the situation turns out, you did not do anything that warranted that person treating you any which way. And the truth is, you probably interact with people all the time who treated you bad for whatever reason. You never will know if it's because they were racist or it's because they just had a bad day. Like, I don't know. I don't choose to assume that everyone around me is racist. Even if someone truly is racist, it's not my problem. Or I don't choose to make it my problem. Like, racism at the end of the day is a heart issue. If someone needs to see someone as less than in order for them to feel better about themselves, that's because they're insecure, low key. Like, if you have to put someone else down, you have to put an entire group of people down in order for you to feel good about yourself. That is because you are insecure and you seek validation. So from a psychological perspective, they're hating because they ain't. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to do that. Okay. But seriously, usually people hate out of fear, because they're insecure, because they actually feel inferior, really. Like, from an actual psychological perspective, people hate because people who are hating are projecting their own insecurity or their own fear. Like, they don't actually feel better than, or they need to feel better than to validate themselves as people. You see, I don't seek validation from anyone to feel good about myself. Therefore, I don't need to put someone else down in order for me to know my worth, know where I am in life. And I hope and pray more people get to the place I am in life, because I think it's also because I have been in all white spaces and I don't really care. Like, white people are white people. Personally, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Like I said, I prefer diverse settings, but black people are so entertaining, like, at all times. Like, there's this level of comfort, I feel like. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is why I'm like, good people come in all races. Like, I've met people from all backgrounds that I felt like are great, caring, loving, good people. And if you go around believing that everyone's racist and everyone's, hates you or whatever, like, you're just gonna miss out on some great relationships. But anyways, I feel like whenever I see, like, I feel like black people are just funny. That's probably biased. Is that, well, yeah, biased. But, black people just be doing things, I feel like, that are just, I don't know. It's this whole idea that, like, black people are seen as being, like, cool or trendy a lot of times. I don't know where that stems from, but yeah. Anyways, stop seeking validation from other people to feel good about yourself, and learn to find security in who you are, not what you are. Peace out.